Hi everybody, good afternoon. I'm Dustin Strong. This is Ask Me Anything. This is 2 times a week. We jump on here and answer any questions when it comes to nutrition and health and holistic approaches to health. So if you have any questions while we're going over this, go ahead and type them in there. I'll do my best to answer them right away. And if you don't get it in there in time, I will go back and answer it on the next one. Or you can email us at info@strongonhealth. So we have 3 different categories of questions that we had today. One was about catching colds and viruses. The other one is about sleep. And the third one is from last time about muscle building that I said I would go into a little bit in more detail. So let's start out with the virus one. I had somebody who was very surprised to see people coming in here when they were having somebody getting sick and saying, well, what can you do with nutrition to stop somebody from getting too sick? And it's not that we're trying to stop or treat something like that, but the thought is people know now, or they're being educated, that their body has its own immune system and it needs certain things to have an appropriate response, to be able to help your body resolve the issue as quickly as possible. And that's why we're getting a lot of people coming in here right away, because they're thinking in terms of, well, what am I missing? What is it that my body needs? And when we talk about the immune function, of course, we know from a nutrition standpoint, there's what we call the immunity triad. You need calcium, you need a good bioavailable source of calcium, not just some calcium carbonate or some type of chemical or some kind of monstrous creation in a lab. You actually need it the way you get it from foods. You're going to need essential fatty acids. You're going to need vitamin C and zinc. So what we're doing is we're just reminding people of those things and showing them ways that we would incorporate those to help us get over any type of illness really quickly. So when you think in terms of viruses, we had somebody asking, well, what can you do for an Epstein-Barr virus? Well, that is a stealth pathogen. So that means it's a little harder. It means that your immune system has a little bit of a challenge being able to eradicate this because the normal functions aren't going to be able to get there. However, that does not mean that you don't need to support your immune system. You still need to give it all those things. You still need to make sure you have adequate, abundant calcium in a way that your body can utilize it. You need to make sure you have enough zinc, you have enough vitamin C. All of those things should be satisfied first. And then there are some things that have been known to be helpful with those. Herbs especially, things like echinacea can be very helpful for it, andrographis. There's a whole host of a list of herbs that Carrie Bone has listed out as specific to that type of virus that can be very helpful in that. So yes, there are definitely some herbs, but always think in terms of first supporting your immune system, because regardless if you're going to have to bring in an herb, you still need your immune system to function, because there are other things. Almost always when people find that they have something like this, or they come down with some type of a sickness, they think that if they just target that one thing, they're going to be fine. But there are multiple things that are going to be taking advantage of the weakness. So there are going to be co-infections, there are going to be other things that are going to be present that you still need your immune system to be strong enough to handle. So always about strengthening your immune system. Okay, second, sleep. Rita, thank you for the question. Rita was wondering about taking serotonin for sleep. And then she mentioned the fact that she has lupus with it and wondering if that, or somebody who has lupus, do they need to take that? Now, I'm not sure exactly where that came from, but I can go into this a little bit deeper, because we also were sent this picture of something called Hello Bello Sleep Well. I'm tying these in because they're asking about this product. It says, I've been taking this for a couple weeks now, and they really help me fall asleep quickly at night. Normally I toss and turn, but 30 minutes after taking these, I can lay down and I'm out quick. I was just wondering if they were okay to take. Okay, so all of this comes together because serotonin and melatonin, how these come to play in your body. When you are taking something that gives you melatonin, that is what your body needs to sleep. It is the hormone that surges when the cortisol, which is your stress hormone, when that starts to go down, your melatonin surges and that helps you fall asleep. So taking it exogenously can help you fall asleep, and sleep is so critical to health and recovery. Sometimes in short-term cases, if you really can't get to sleep, it's the only thing that does it, then I can understand why that would be something you want to do, because sleep is that important. But you don't want to do something like that long-term, because if you're constantly having to do that, what you're missing is a lesson you're trying to get to understand why you can't produce your own melatonin. And that's what we really need to look at. We have a whole sheet here on how to get a good night's sleep. It has all the whole foods that would help satisfy all the micronutrients that you need to support sleep and melatonin production, and also lifestyle factors that you possibly need to be changing to make sure you're sleeping. So instead of just taking a hormone to force yourself to sleep that your body would normally be giving you to help to sleep, try to understand where you're missing, either in habits or in nutrients, that is keeping you from being able to produce your own melatonin. And the other thing is a lot of people will say if you constantly take melatonin, that will actually downregulate your body's ability to make it and you'll become more dependent on it. So you always want to think in terms of how do I make more melatonin naturally? And there are certain foods that will help you with that for sure. And actually we'll get that list out and anybody who has any questions about that, we'll go over that list on our sleep. But it's just a little one sheet, it makes it so much easier. So how does that relate into serotonin? Well, here's the interesting thing that people don't realize is melatonin is actually created from serotonin. Serotonin is the precursor to that. So if you have low melatonin, you may also have low serotonin. And then the question has to be, well, where do you get serotonin from? And serotonin comes from mostly from tryptophan. You have to have tryptophan, which is an essential amino acid, to be able to make serotonin, which you need to make melatonin. So what we're trying to help people understand is that you have to get all the way back up to the top to make sure all of that's coming in, because you need tryptophan for all kinds of things. You need a good, healthy microbiome to be able to transfer that into serotonin too, because a lot of that's made in your gut. It's a very holistic thing, but the point being is instead of just throwing in melatonin or throwing in serotonin, making sure that you're actually getting what your body needs to make it naturally, because you're missing information and you're missing steps. So many times that's what's happening is people are constantly skipping steps and they're creating a problem because they never got up to the top of the problem in the first place. And this goes for our last question too about weightlifting and muscle recovery and even collagen. People will take things like collagen or they'll take creatine because they think that's going to help them recover faster, and it can, but what all that is a combination of these essential amino acids. Amino acids like arginine, those are going to be in both collagen and muscle recovery. Things like glycine, things like methionine, that's actually what creatine's made of. So it all goes back to making sure you're getting a great source of essential amino acids coming into your body so that you can do all of these things. And then secondarily, making sure that you can digest all of those proteins so that you can break them down into these amino acids, and then you are making sure that you have everything you need. Seeing some really interesting blood work where they're actually showing the levels of the different amino acids in the blood so people can really understand how low they are in certain aspects of their diet, that they're just not getting those in there. And that's really exciting because it can really inform you to a ton of things. So you can see now that affects the sleep, it affects the serotonin. And how lupus plays into that is because a lot of what happens is when you get these undigested proteins getting into the blood, because they're not digested, that's when you can get an autoimmune response. You can have your body actually going out to try to stop that protein from being in the blood, and that can create even more worse situations. And we talked about this in our digestive health talk that we did in Fort Worth, and we'll do it many, many more times probably here locally as well. So amino acids, you have to get those in there. So which brings us all the way down to the last question, muscle recovery. People think in terms of muscle recovery, you definitely think in terms of protein and amino acids. You have to have those, but it's not as simple as just the amino acid, and this is where all those micronutrients come into play. You have to have all of the micronutrients to be able to utilize that and take them and build them back into muscle. So this is why it's so important to get a little bit of everything all the time, with an emphasis on whatever your weakness is, and helping yourself learn what your weakness is helps you put your emphasis on that. And that's why we're such big fans here of whole food nutrition, because things like walnuts are going to give you a ton of these cofactors. Trace minerals are really important to activate the enzymes to be able to break them down and actually take it from protein to aminos and then rebuild your own protein to rebuild muscle. So when somebody asks me what's the best muscle recovery, well, of course you want to make sure you have plenty of protein so that you're getting the amino acids, but you also have to have the micronutrients the way that it comes in nature. All too often we're trying to say, okay, well, I'm just going to take creatine, or I'm just going to take whey protein, or I'm just going to take this isolated thing. When foods give us so much more, that's the way that our bodies are supposed to get it so that it can do the job that it was intended to do, get it all in there together. Okay, I think that answers all the questions, and I hope that all makes sense to you guys. What I'm saying again is you got to eat a whole food, you got to eat a variety of whole foods, and making sure your body gets that. You need potassium to be able to help rebuild muscle. You need to have vitamins A, D, E, and K. You have to have those fat-soluble vitamins, so you do have to have fat in the diet. You have to have things that support your body's ability to utilize that. So a little bit of everything. Get that variety in there, get all of those nutrients. Don't just go for one single isolated thing, because that's just not how it works. You need all of those things to actually make this magic transformation into rebuilding your own collagen, rebuilding your muscle. You need things like sulfur in your diet to be able to recreate the collagen. You need vitamin C. So again, a little bit of everything, but making sure that you're getting the broad spectrum of it. Okay, so I hope that makes sense to you guys, because we really want to think in terms of making sure your body gets everything it needs, as opposed to just giving one tiny little thing that you know that is associated with sleep, like melatonin. It gives you so much more information, and it's so much more systemically healthy for you to make sure you're getting all of those things. And some great foods for that. Nuts and seeds give so many amino acids, so you can get a complete amino acid profile from getting those. But eggs are a great source of that as well, and you're going to get a ton of other nutrients when you're getting those. So again, whole foods, variety of whole foods is going to be the best thing for you. Are there any questions left out there? Thanks for watching, guys, and keep those questions coming. We really enjoy this. We want to continue to, I know it sounds sometimes complicated, but when you really start thinking about it, it just comes back to eating whole foods, eating a good variety of whole foods, and making sure you can digest those whole foods. So many things become simple when you can get that figured out. Okay, thanks again, guys, and you have a great weekend. We'll see you on Tuesday.